Have you ever woken up with that deep-seated fear that, in the blink of an eye, everything you've built, and even your own mind, could simply vanish? Let me tell you something. The control you think you have over your life is an illusion that your ego feeds every single day. But before we dive into this story that will confront your pride, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. If you are looking for truths that most people prefer to ignore, you are in the right place. Now, take a deep breath and try to imagine the stifling heat of the Mesopotamian desert. The year is approximately 560 BC. The air in Babylon is heavy, thick with the scent of expensive incense and cedar wood burning in the temples of stone gods. The sun beats down on the blue walls of the Ishtar Gate, making the gold shine so brightly it actually hurts your eyes. This is a metropolis that doesn't just think it's divine. It believes it is the center of the universe. At the top of the Hanging Gardens, Nebuchadnezzar gazes at the horizon. His pride is almost palpable, an aura of arrogance that surrounds every decision he makes. He is the master of the world. He commands, and nations tremble. But absolute power comes with a price, and the king's mind is about to pay the bill. In the silence of an ordinary night, Nebuchadnezzar's peace was shattered by a dream that didn't feel like a dream, but a sentence. He saw a tree so gigantic that its top touched the heavens, visible from anywhere on earth. It provided shade for everyone and food for every living creature. But then, a holy sentinel descended from heaven and shouted with a voice like thunder, "Cut down the tree! Lop off its branches! But leave the stump with its roots in the earth, bound with iron and bronze chains." Panic spread through the palace like a silent poison. The magicians, astrologers, and wise men of Babylon, who once boasted of knowing the secrets of the stars, were now trembling. No one could utter a word. The king was desperate, but his pride still wouldn't let him see that the problem wasn't the dream. It was the dreamer. That's where Daniel comes in. He wasn't just an interpreter of dreams. He was a man who carried the weight of eternity in his gaze. When he heard the king's account, he sat stunned for an hour. His silence was painful. Daniel didn't want to deliver that news. He felt deep compassion for that king, as arrogant as Nebuchadnezzar was. Daniel wanted to save the man's soul, not just explain the mystery. With a trembling but steady voice, he revealed the truth. "O king, that tree is you. The decree of the Most High is that you will be driven away from human society, and will live like the animals of the field." Imagine the shock. Daniel gave a clear warning. Change now. Stop sinning, help the poor. Perhaps then God will prolong your peace. Nebuchadnezzar heard him, and for a while, fear kept him in check. For 12 months, the first clues appeared that he was trying to change. He was more cautious, more restrained. But pride is like a shadow that waits for the sun to go down so it can grow again. The palace began to whisper. His advisors said the king was just tired, that the dream was just a sign of old age. And the king started to believe them. Exactly 1 year later, he was walking on the terrace of the royal palace. He looked at the grandeur of the walls, at the Euphrates River cutting through the city, and his ego reached its peak. He couldn't help himself. He spoke the words that sealed his fate. "Is this not the great Babylon that I have built by my vast power and for the glory of my majesty?" Before he could even finish the sentence, a voice echoed from heaven. It wasn't a whisper. It was an explosion of authority. "The kingdom has departed from you, Nebuchadnezzar." In that exact second, the built-up tension turned into tragedy. The thermal shock to his soul was so violent that his brain simply disconnected from human reality. The sweat that once belonged to an emperor now became dew. Human speech vanished, replaced by guttural sounds of terror. The guards, terrified, saw the most powerful man on earth fall on all fours, his nails scratching the marble floor. Nebuchadnezzar was driven into the wild. He began to eat grass like oxen. The sun scorched his skin until it grew hard as leather. His hair grew like eagle's feathers, and his nails looked like claws. But here's the twist that most people ignore. Nebuchadnezzar didn't actually turn into an animal. He became a beast in his mind, but he kept the consciousness of who he was. Imagine the ultimate humiliation. He knew he was the king, but he couldn't act like a man. He was trapped inside a savage shell, feeling the cold, the hunger, and the abandonment. It was God's pedagogical punishment to show that sanity is a loan, not a right. He spent 7 seasons in this condition. 7 cycles of humiliation where the only goal was to break the backbone of his pride. The climax of this story doesn't happen on a battlefield, but the moment the beast lifts his eyes to heaven. Nebuchadnezzar finally stopped looking down at the earth he thought he owned and looked up. All the pieces of the dream connected. He realized the tree was cut so that the roots would understand where the sap came from. The moment he recognized that the Most High has dominion over the kingdoms of men and gives them to whomever he wishes, his sanity returned. It was as if a veil had been torn away. The aftermath is of a deep and terrifying beauty. The king returns to his throne, but he is no longer the same. Arrogance has given way to awe. He rules again, but now he knows that his throne is sustained by God's mercy, not by the gold of Babylon. He learned that God can humble those who walk in pride, and that a man's greatest madness is thinking he is the master of his own destiny. His kingdom was restored, but his heart now belonged to another king. The story of Nebuchadnezzar leaves us with a clear lesson. God sustains your mind and your balance as long as you are able to recognize that everything comes from Him. Pride is still the disease that kills the most, and it starts silently. On a terrace, in a victory, in a compliment that you decide to accept as if it were your own. If you've made it this far, leave a comment with the words, God in control. So I know you understand who is really in charge. The mystery that remains for you is this. What is the Babylon you are trying to build today for your own glory? Be careful, because the fields and the beasts are still out there, waiting for those who forget to look at the sky.